A 10-year-old boy with a prosthetic leg slowly limped into a crowded coffee shop, and one by one, every table turned him away. When he finally stopped in front of a scarred, tattooed biker sitting alone, his small voice barely rose above the noise as he asked if he could sit there, explaining that everyone else had already said no, unaware that the next minute would reveal something so dark it would shock an entire neighborhood and change both of their lives forever. Because this is the story of Marcus and Ethan, and it will not end the way you expect. Before we continue, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell in the comments where you're watching from. The Copper Bean had stood on the corner of Madison and 3rd for over 20 years, with exposed brick walls, mismatched chairs, and coffee made with care. A place where regulars knew the staff and weekends were filled with calm conversation. But that peaceful feeling vanished the moment the door chimed and the boy walked in. Ethan moved carefully, wincing with every step as his poorly fitted prosthetic rubbed against him, his thin clothes hanging loosely and his nervous eyes scanning the room. Not looking for a restroom or his parents, but simply a place to sit. He approached a young couple first, but before he could speak, the woman shook her head and turned away. So he moved on to 3 businessmen who suddenly pretended he didn't exist, and then to a mother with 2 children who pulled them closer and loudly questioned where his parents were, her words filled with judgment instead of concern. His face burned with embarrassment, his one strong leg shook, yet he forced himself to keep going. In the back corner sat Marcus, a 41-year-old biker with a hard face marked by scars, arms covered in tattoos, and a leather vest that made people uneasy, quietly drinking black coffee and reading. When Ethan finally stopped in front of him and softly begged for a seat, Marcus didn't pause for a second, pushing the chair out with his boot and telling the boy to sit. And as Ethan moved forward, his legs gave out, forcing Marcus to catch him with steady, careful hands. When Ethan settled into the chair, his sleeve slipped, revealing yellow and purple bruises shaped like adult fingerprints, and Marcus instantly understood something was deeply wrong. After asking his name and if he was hungry, Marcus ordered him food, and Ethan ate slowly and carefully, like someone who wasn't sure when he'd eat again, glancing up every few seconds to make sure Marcus hadn't left. Eventually, between bites, Ethan admitted he wasn't supposed to be there and said he couldn't stay home anymore, his hands shaking as tears finally poured out while he confessed that his uncle had been hurting him ever since his parents died. When Marcus gently asked about his leg, Ethan admitted the uncle claimed it was an accident, but he had been seen and ignored as the truck kept moving. And worse, Ethan had overheard a phone call where his uncle said if anything happened to the boy, he would get everything. Marcus sat still, realizing this wasn't just abuse but a slow, planned attempt to kill a child for money. And when he promised Ethan he wasn't going anywhere, the boy finally shared more, whispering about being locked in the pantry without food, being punished for chores he couldn't physically do, and how his uncle claimed the insurance money was gone while still buying expensive new things, proving the danger Ethan was truly in. Marcus knew instantly the man wasn't broke at all, and his hands tightened beneath the table as the truth settled in that Ethan's uncle didn't see him as a child, but as an obstacle standing between him and full control of the money. And with that realization, Marcus stood up slowly, causing panic to flash across Ethan's face as he feared another adult was about to walk away, his voice cracking as he asked if Marcus was leaving him. But Marcus knelt down until they were eye to eye and promised, quietly but firmly, that he was never leaving and that he would make sure the man who hurt him could never do it again. Then he stepped outside, pulled out his phone, and called a brother he trusted without hesitation, telling him there was child abuse and a possible murder plan, and that he needed every brother nearby immediately. And within minutes, motorcycles began arriving from different counties, engines rumbling with purpose as men in leather jackets gathered, responding not with chaos, but discipline, listening as Marcus explained the bruises, the starvation, the leg, the money, and the phone call, which made Brick's face turn cold as he ordered everyone to do this the right way by gathering proof and making it stick. While some bikers calmly spoke to neighbors who admitted they had noticed yelling, the boy disappearing, and even failed calls to child services, others stayed with Ethan inside, carefully writing down every detail he shared, while a former cop made direct calls that forced CPS to respond immediately. And through it all, Marcus never let go of Ethan's hand as his brothers moved around them like a shield, offering shoes, future help, rides to doctors, and support without hesitation, reminding Marcus that he wasn't alone in this. Even the barista quietly brought Ethan another hot chocolate, thanking Marcus for doing what no one had done for her brother years ago. And when Ethan finally fell asleep from exhaustion, Marcus stayed still for hours, letting the boy rest against him no matter the pain in his own body. That evening, police arrested the uncle in his driveway, uncovering a locked pantry, a filthy locked room barely fit for living, records of controlled starvation written in careful detail, and financial documents proving the money was hidden while plans for Ethan's death were written coldly in a journal that spoke of reducing food, worsening the prosthetic, and waiting until the boy grew too weak to survive, revealing abuse so calculated it shook even veteran officers. Ethan was taken gently to the hospital, examined by doctors who documented every injury and promised to fix what had been neglected. And Marcus stayed all night, comforting him through nightmares, promising protection. And when Ethan asked if he was wanted despite feeling broken, Marcus told him clearly that he wasn't broken at all and that he would be lucky to be his family. Words that finally let Ethan cry in relief. Weeks later in court, Ethan chose Marcus without hesitation, and months later the biker brothers filled Marcus's home with laughter, cake, and roaring engines as Ethan celebrated a birthday surrounded by people who had become his family, gripping Marcus tight as he whispered two quiet words that carried a lifetime of meaning, words that meant safety, belonging, and a future he was never supposed to have, words that meant he was finally home.